As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
One of the worst performances of my career, and they never doubted it for a second.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
Son of a bitch. He stole my life.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Welcome back to the Shot by Shot podcast. Today we are finally talking about the filmmaker Abel Ferrara, which is just coming off one of the wildest supporting performances of the year with Marty Supreme, which we've had this episode cooking for quite a good few months right now, so it is quite a good coincidence that we just had that lined up as he released in that movie. It's a good timing, but we wanted to talk about Ferrara because he has been one of the most prominent New York filmmakers of the last 40 years. Although he's not exactly in the peak of popularity right now, that probably came in the 90s, he has continued to make several interesting movies before then and since, up to even last year, or no, 2021, it was his last movie. I think, he continued to release interesting movies that we're going to go through today. We're going to go through a lot of his filmography. Not all of them, because quite a few of them are really hard to find and we haven't seen every single movie, but we're going to hit, I think, all of the kind of like movies we consider major and in terms of his career. So Oscar, this is one of your favourite filmmakers. What do you think about Abel Ferrara?
Yeah, he's had a very distinct career, and one of those filmmakers that you can kind of easily divide between this kind of pre-2000s and post-2000s kind of work that is just really fascinating as a whole. But I think there's even things pre-2000 that kind of a foreshadowing signal to the world and the films he's come to make in the 2020s, which are really fascinating. And I think he's still one of the most interesting filmmakers working today. He's made one of my favorite films of the decade so far, which we will get to, but he is a provocative filmmaker, no doubt, kind of championed by his extreme violence and looking to kind of sexual abuse and assaults and just general violence in those circumstances, but it's not kind of provocative for the sake of it, and he is one of those kind of polarizing filmmakers where people could easily make those assumptions, but I think he's just one of those guys that can be wildly misconstrued about his intentions, and that is very relevant in kind of earlier on in his career, which was quite explosive. And he is a very New York filmmaker. He loves his cities, and I think he has a really interesting dissection of kind of city environments across his whole filmography. But he is one of my favorites, one of the best American filmmakers, without a doubt. Really, really fascinating guy.
See, I love him when he's being like grungy and provocative. He's a bit of a mixed bag director for me, but there's not a film we're going to talk about that I'd say I dislike. When it doesn't land for me, it's been really interesting and really experimental, which I like. That you can't always pin down that this is Ferrara. I think if I saw Zero and Ones without knowing who directed it, I wouldn't exactly pin it down. Same with like Pasolini, but when you go in with the knowledge that this is a Ferrara film, you can definitely see certain thematic trademarks to all his films. Films like, Miss 45 is one of my favourite films ever, which I wasn't expecting when I watched it. It was just sort of a completed filmography kind of watch for me a year or two ago. And that has like pretty clear links to Carrie, and I love Carrie, but I prefer Miss 45 in the way that ends. And then King of New York's another one where he's really grungy. Christopher Walken's one of his favourite guys, and they go hand in hand really well. And then you've got films like The Addiction and other films like Bad Lieutenant, which are really cynical, but really, really entertaining and really quite introspective about things like faith, Catholicism, things like that, which is still present in some of his modern works. So yeah, for me, he's one of the strongest directors still working for me. I do really like him. When he lands for me, there's not many directors that can match that quality.
Bad Lieutenant, entertaining. Whoa. What are you trying to say there?
In a strange way, yeah.
That film is nuts.
Exactly. You just get to see a complete like moral collapse of like everything going on. It's interesting.
He is definitely a controversial filmmaker, and there's, like you said, there's a lot of different movies in his filmography. There's a lot of different eras that you can split his career into, and that's what we're going to do today. I want to start at the start of his career because there's like a lot of the filmmakers of the era that he came in, there are some interesting choices at the start of their career, very low budget stuff. And Ferrara's first feature film came from his at the start of his career in 1976 after he left art school and he was struggling for work. So he decided to make porno called 9 Lives of a Wet Pussy, which is, funny enough, also his acting debut. And
Yeah.
Ferrara claims that this had a lot of artistic intent and there was really good scenes in it, but it was kind of butchered as it was sent out to projectionists. Apparently, back in the day, they would just often steal the best scenes from pornos and add it to their own collection, so that when it was actually projected, it wasn't really the artist's intent. Apparently, there's not really much in this movie that's interesting at all in the scope of like Ferrara's career that to really talk about. Just kind of really had to bring it up because it is like the very first
Wait, did you
debut
watch
there. I skimmed through some of it, yes. Just as
Homework.
yeah, it was homework for this episode. But yeah, there's not really much in there other than the fact that he likes to put women at the front of his movies and a lot of his films. That's really the only thing you can see that goes on to the rest of his career. But it's officially his debut, so I thought we had to at least mention it. His second feature film, The Driller Killer, is a movie that I much prefer. It is a much more interesting movie in terms of where his movies would eventually go, being that first movie set in New York and at the start of what he'd spent the majority of the 80s doing, which is these like New York slasher exploitation movies, all kind of centered around a New York serial killer. In some way or fashion. It's kind of his first unofficial trilogy, which is, I would say it was like Driller Killer, Miss 45, and Fear City, which Driller Killer is really nothing special. It's quite a fun time as you kind of follow. It's Abel Ferrara again in the lead. He is the Driller Killer. As this artist who's losing his mind, and sometimes he kills people with his drill around New York. There's not many great kills in this movie, but it's a largely plotless, and it doesn't have much of a budget. It is very, very low budget. It doesn't look much different from his first feature, but it does have that kind of like 70s exploitation charm, which I think just about makes it work. His performance in it is insane. He's one of the funniest slasher killers that I've seen, and it's the start of Ferrara's streak of really controversial movies. This one being banned in the UK. Not that it was hard to be banned in the UK back then, but this was one of the big controversial ones about the VHS cover, which was a drill going through a man's head. So this was one of the big ones that like started the video nasties and getting stuff banned. But that was a success comparatively for the budget. I think it was a $20,000 budget. So just getting that like his name out there, it done pretty well. And in comparison to the other movie that I'd put in this trilogy, which is his first 80s film, Fear City, which was his big break of working in major studio movies. He was hired by 20th Century Fox and given $4 million to, in a way, kind of create a more complex version of Driller Killer, where this one has at least has a narrative. There's some real actors in here, like Billy D. Williams and Melanie Griffith, who, if you've seen Brian De Palma's Body Double, she also plays a sex worker in that movie, released the same year. This movie does not really work. It looks nice. There's a cool 80s soundtrack. It's shot by James Lemel, which is the DP of Miss 45, and another movie that kind of fits into these like New York slasher movies. He was a DP for the Maniac Cop, which I think Daniel was seeing. But it's just kind of a similar kind of style to this movie.
Yeah.
The vibes are there, but there's not. There's a lot of focus on the nightclub and the guy that's hired to kill the serial killer in this movie. It's a kung fu killer in this, so it's almost as funny as the driller killer. But I don't think it really works as well as the driller killer, because it's trying a lot more, but it's not really working overall. But yeah, it's a decently fun time, solid 80s, almost like slasher. There's not many kills in this one either, but it is equally almost as funny as the driller killer. It didn't end up being a success though, as he had this movie like chopped apart. I think it was given an X rating, so he couldn't release it, and 20th Century Fox eventually just dropped the movie from him, and he had to get it distributed by someone else. So if you watch the movie now, it's got the full intention, but it's like very low quality inserts of what was cut.
Damn.
So yeah, a very butchered movie. But I think the most successful movie from this kind of era of his is Miss 45. And Daniel, you mentioned this was your favourite movie from him. So what do you think about like Miss 45?
Yeah, it's my favourite movie from him, one of my favourites altogether. I think it's a good thing we've like established his background, because you would not think this early in his career he'd come out with a film like Miss 45 in the way that, yes, on the surface level, narratively, it's very similar to like Driller Killer and things like that. So grungy, like guerrilla style filmmaking, like slasher in New York, but the way he like genuinely kind of tackles female empowerment, he doesn't show it in a healthy way. He shows it through violence. She basically snaps and just starts killing men, most of whom like actually deserve it. But he shows this really traumatic event numerous times, because it happens to the character more than once. And I think he tackles it, especially for like the early 80s, in quite a mature way. And then, if you've also heard Ferrara speak in like later directors' commentaries, he's very he's not shy about how attractive he finds some of his like female cast members. So it is like quite a miraculous. I'm not saying that he's like a sexist or anything, but it's quite a surprising one this early in his career that he can show like this level of like urban predation on women, but it not come across as like exploitative, and you actually have a character that takes autonomy in their own hands, but does it in like a violent, like grindhouse sort of style. And yeah, the way the film ends is like I said, quite Carrie-esque, but it's just as satisfying to watch, I'd say. And the light imagery of like the nun outfit as well, mixed with the violence, it's like an early indicator of his like love. Well, not love, but he really likes putting Catholicism in all his films and like faith. So yeah, that lends to some very good posters for this film as well. It's definitely my favourite from him, and one of my favourite films in general.
It is really interesting. Like, first off, got one of the best posters ever, by the way. The legs and the guys on the other side and the pistol is incredible. It's absolutely brilliant. One of the best posters out there. But it feels like a film made by a young filmmaker. You know, it is provocative, but it is really intelligent. And, you know, a male filmmaker tackling this kind of female-centered film, it is something that is quite easy to slip up on, a sense, but I think it's more the way it works with this takedown of this really stupid male culture on praying and things like that, as much as is the other side. And this kind of city environment, as like I mentioned before, he kind of evolves that throughout his filmography, and this is kind of one of the first instances, and it's really depraved and helpless and driven this character to extreme means, which is the violence, and we see it a lot in his films, and he does push it to the extreme, but it's not just that sense of provocation. There is a real sense of transformation through violence, and it is really fascinating to watch, cathartic in many sense. And this kind of city environment really builds on this kind of inevitable peril that's kind of surrounding her character. And yeah, it is a fascinating early career film, really fascinating.
Yeah, it's the first movie where like New York feels really evil in the movie, like as a character, and it does still have that like guerrilla kind of feel of the Driller Killer, where like I mean the movie's literally kind of using the same kind of name where it's the woman or the weapon that she uses to kill people, but it does feel like a step up from the kind of movies around it. Even the movies after it, I feel like it has a better production value, almost even while still retaining that kind of like low budget feel. I think this is up there as one of his best, and it's kind of like the apart from another film later on, this is kind of like the best kind of version of that style of movie that he liked to do, I think. And yeah, that the catharsis of that final scene is it's very Carrie-esque, like you were saying, and it's really satisfying. Um, and yeah, the religious kind of aspects of this is we'll come back to that later on because it goes much deeper into it.
Yeah, he is obsessed with Catholicism, and I think it's quite interesting that how blunt that imagery is so early on in his career. It's like, oh yeah, this is a nun that's just going out killing people. It's just it's right in your face. Just the contrast between the two, and there's bits in all his films, and he really has this kind of I guess love for Italy in a sense, and we do see that further down the line. It is quite fascinating.
Yeah, his religious beliefs will develop. What are we going to
Did
say,
anyone
Daniel?
do any research? What does is he religious at all?
He's Buddhist now, since he moved to Europe, I
Interesting.
think.
Wow. I did not know that. I was gonna. Did he had anything kind of Catholic relations at the time when he was making his earlier films, or was he just really obsessed with?
So he's
digging
from the
into idea
Bronx
of
in New York, so
Catholicism?
he's kind of like brought up Catholic.
Brought up Catholic. Interesting.
Irish Catholic, I think.
Damn.
So yeah, definitely a big part of his.
It's interesting that he's
upbringing.
like he brings it into his films really early in his career, and he instantly adds like quite a sinister, cynical twist to it all. But there's not actually much on his personal life, so I don't know if that's just his general relationship with his faith, or he just likes the aesthetics of it. But clearly, even in Miss 45, it's not like a aesthetical thing. He's doing commentary on it. And yeah, I like how he develops it throughout his career, because even in films like Zeros and Ones, there's a lot of Catholic imagery. So it's like been throughout the decades, he's really tackled it all. Yeah, it's a recurring theme that I really enjoy about his films, even though I don't fully understand the context as to why, from his upbringing, he's so obsessed with including it all.
Yeah, I think there is a point because there's a point just at the turn of the century where he moves to Europe and he kind of abandons. Well, he's never been really part of Hollywood. He's always been independent, but he kind of completely abandons that and goes to Europe and starts making movies. And I think him and his cinematographer are both. I think they're both Buddhist because there's a documentary on the addiction and they talk about it slightly in that. I don't know if he still is because that was made like 10 years ago. But I think he was at some point. But yeah, I think that's the best. Miss 45 is the best from that kind of his early era for me. He does kind of spend the rest of the 80s not really making movies. He's mostly kind of a hired gun for TV movies or some episodes, largely for Michael Mann actually. I think he directed 2 episodes
he did
of
Miami
Vice,
didn't he?
Yeah, and he also
I saw that
made a
before my
pilot
timeline the
for
other week.
another one of Michael Mann's shows until 1990, where he releases The King of New York, which is his like kind of like first film that feels really further developed from that kind of sleazy exploitation like horror movies. I think that you got that first kind of cult following with. It's his first gangster movie that feels. It feels like a more traditional narrative than his films preceding, but that's because they don't really even have narratives, most of them. But this one feels like the beginning of a new era for him, and where he develops more into those gangster movies with this and The Funeral and more refined iterations of that lonely New York protagonist with the addiction and Bad Lieutenant, with films that are a lot more kind of thematically rich than a lot of his early stuff. With him exploring, like we were talking about, his Catholic background, that continues to be more prominent in his movies, and he quite often explores addiction as well during his movies in the 90s, which this is I know this is often described as like, he's like back alley Scorsese era during the like gangster movies, and Bad Lieutenant obviously has similarities to Taxi Driver with Harvey Keitel in the lead playing that. I mean, it is like an iteration of his protagonist, but it also does kind of feel like a Schrader protagonist in that movie, especially. Never manages to really reach any sense of commercial success like a Scorsese, but the 90s is his era where he has the most financial power. It's where he's kind of working in the studio system, kind of, with a few of these movies. There's the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which was a huge financial flop, but it was also his biggest budget with 12 million. It only made 400k back, unfortunately.
Wow.
Unfortunate, because I actually think it's a really good movie. That is
really good.
That's a series which is like pretty much everyone is kind of being really good in its own way, and a lot of people call this the best of those remakes. And King of New York was actually his most successful of that time. It made 2 million at the box office, which is really low, but somehow is most successful. So yeah, this is the height of his popularity, I guess, from his career in the 90s. What do you think about King of New York?
I absolutely love this film. I think it's incredible. By the way, his 90s run is absolutely ridiculous. Wait, when did you say was Body Snatchers? Was Body Snatchers late 80s or was that 90s?
No, that was mid 90s.
So we got King of New York, Body Snatchers, Bad Lieutenant, The Addiction, The Blackout, and New Rose Hotel in the 90s is pretty unbelievable. I'm probably missing something. But yeah, I think King of New York is this kind of more deep into extension into this idea of New York, and he really treats it as this place of everyone looks dead. There are so many pale faces in this film. He's Christopher Walken's character is kind of he's coming back from jail. He's got all these kind of connections he's coming back into, and it's kind of this start of one of his themes of kind of transactional worlds where I think this is kind of like a false Robin Hood story in a way. There's a lot of giving and taking in this film, and it kind of gets to a point where you don't know which way up and which way is down. And there's it gets kind of construed morally about what is right and wrong. And I love the way that a lot of this film kind of exists in interiors and city walls. You see kind of up until kind of the end portions, kind of very little of the actual outside of New York, and I love the way he kind of shoots and inhabits these spaces with a lot of life. And I think it's kind of poetic that the climax of the film was like walking, like slowly rising back up the stairs into kind of the outside world, which is really, really interesting. But yeah, there's Catholicism all over this one as well. It's quite stagnant, and it kind of watches on, and it's kind of almost self revelatory. He's asking for forgiveness, but it's just kind of there watching on him, and that kind of last scene is really incredible. But yeah, I really, really adore this film. I think it's one of his best.
I also really enjoy it. I think this one always surprises me that it comes like as its first film in that 90s run, because it feels like the most contemporary typical narrative to me. It definitely feels like a Hollywood film to me, at least. Like obviously, there's Wesley Snipes, Lawrence Fishburne, Steve Buscemi, Christopher Walken, all these recognizable like household names that helps with that. And I think Walken adds quite some fun layers to this because whilst he sees himself as this like sort of like messiah figure who is trying to like he's come back and he's trying to like purify the system with violence. He's trying to redistribute the wealth down, like trickle down. But at the same time, there is an element of softness and humour to his character. Like that scene where he's dancing around is so funny. I do like the tone the film is going for, but it is a Ferrara film, so of course it does feel like you're leaving a little bit empty in your gut. There is like a profound sadness to it all. But yeah, this definitely is his most typical gangster film. The protagonist is a little bit more palatable in this, even though what he's doing is fairly morally corrupt. Like you compare it to someone like Keitel in Bad Lieutenant, it's like night and day. But I think if you show someone a Ferrara, or if I were, I'd pick this one because not only is it a really strong film, it can sort of ease you into all his ideas about religion and things like that and violence. Because whilst it is quite a contemporary film compared to his others, it's still got that Ferrara feel to it all. And I think I could like do the litmus test for my dad and sit him down and have him watch this, and I think he'd enjoy it. So yeah, this is a good starting point. I think 'cause it's still quite early in his career as well.
Interesting. I think it's interesting to see about it being kind of this conventional gangster. I kind of see where you're coming from, but at the same time, I think this holds quite a bit more than convention. I'm trying to think. Was The Funeral the 90s as well?
It was 96, yeah.
96. That's another one I haven't mentioned. I think that maybe that's a really great film, by the way. I think that is maybe slightly more typical gangster things.
Well, I've not seen that one.
Yeah,
fair
true.
enough.
But yeah, there's this has a lot going for it, and it kind of feels like Ferrara's, along with Walken, this film is kind of returning into this world. And it's explosive in its violence, and it really hammers home this sick depravity of and the confinement of its city. It really feels like it's its own state, like its own limbo. Especially considering I kind of see it as Walken's character kind of being resurrected back into this land again at the beginning of the film, and he's faced with all of this. But yeah, it's really phenomenal.
Yeah, it's possible. It's up there as one of his best. I mean, most of his movies are New York, but this is really like one of the New York movies of his career. It's also like it looks incredible. It kind of does have that like step up. You were saying it feels like a studio movie. I think it just has like such a kind of like jumping craft from the first 4 or 5 movies that he done. This is his second movie with Bojan Bazeli, which is the DP that would eventually work with Gore Verbinski. So he's done some incredible work after this and before. This is it's just the lighting in this movie is just incredible. Like he's often talked about as like just the guy that one of the guys about bringing neo noir in the 90s, but this is like one of the best that he done in his career. And it's also one of the. Is this a starting point of his work with Christopher Walken? This is their first collaboration together, isn't it?
I think it is, yes.
Yeah, and that's kind of a major partnership in at least the 90s. It's like one of the actors that I kind of associate with his movies. With this
cast
The
is
Addiction,
crazy.
yeah, New Rose Hotel, that kind of 90s run.
The cast is crazy, by the way. Lawrence Fishburne, Wesley Snipes, Giancarlo Esposito, and Steve Buscemi. It's wild.
In the director's commentary, he's just ripping on Steve Buscemi. He's just like literally calling him names in like a playful way. His commentaries are insightful, but they're a good way of seeing how his mind works. Because yeah, in the in the King of New York one, Buscemi every time he's on screen, which isn't much, is getting completely ripped into. Yeah, he does have a good sense of humor.
Were they from the 90s, the commentaries, or are they like recent
I'm not
releases?
sure actually. I just saw it on YouTube a while ago. I'll have a look.
But yeah, as I said, this is his most successful in the box office, making 2 million. It didn't really have that controversy to do with the rest of his movies, which is probably why it was. And gangster movies were also very popular at the time, so that's definitely why it was one of his most successful. But his next one again didn't really carry that trend because it was Bad Lieutenant, and that was like that is not the kind of movie you make if you want to be financially successful,
No.
because that was slapped with an
The
NC-17
exact opposite.
rating. Yeah, and it was a very limited release. Yeah, a very controversial movie, particularly because of the religion that he carries over to this movie. It's about nuns again. This is one of his best, one of Harvey Keitel's best roles, I think, as well.
Yeah.
What do you think about this movie?
It is just the most depraved thing. I think I've used that word a lot today, but it genuinely is. It's insane. And it is insane, and it's wild the things that Keitel, sorry, does in this film. But it's that sort of idea that, oh, he's literally doing all of the worst stuff, and Ferrara is pushing everything to those extremes, that it's this total kind of damnation is exactly why it works, because he's able to push it to the level. There's no kind of, oh, I'm gonna hold back slightly. It's kind of you're going no way, or you're going all the way. And there's a real sense of kind of almost self like he's in this really bad position, and he's a awful character, and he knows that he's almost fated to die, and he goes out and does all this horrendous stuff. And again, this city place is really built up around this violence, kind of the perpetuality of it all. And I think, like you said, the church is a really significant kind of image in this film. The obviously the iconography of just Catholicism anyway, but there's the church kind of it's almost a staple of the environment. And well, yeah, he does some pretty horrendous stuff, especially just that nun. But yeah, this film is crazy. It's very good, and which I guess one of those films, I'm not going to be kind of elitist and say this like easily misconstrued, and that anyone who doesn't like it is wrong, because it's one of probably his most polarizing work, I'd say. Even though, to be fair, all the people that I follow do really like it. But yeah, it's definitely something.
It's very easy to see why you wouldn't like it.
Yeah, very easy.
Yeah, this is like the opposite of King of New York for me. It's probably one of the last ones I'd show someone, especially someone not that familiar with films.
I watched this with my dad, and it's the only Ferrari he's seen.
Did he
It's
like
an
it?
interesting choice.
I don't know. I can't remember when I watched it. It was like a year ago.
Fair enough. Yeah, this is like him going straight back to guerrilla filmmaking. He didn't have like any permits for shooting anywhere particularly. He sent Harvey Keitel just through a random club, just shot it. He was on drugs apparently whilst making this, and he later said that only director on drugs could have made something like this depraved, which is funny because originally it was supposed to be a comedy, but watching the film you would never think that, because the imagery is like really foul in this. Just a completely moral corrupt character in a position of power, and this is one that really like leans in on the corruption of faith and things like that. You know, using your position to sort of just do whatever you want, but there is like an element of, well, there's an extreme element of guilt from the lieutenant's character, but he's such a struggling man with his faith and just addiction and violence and everything like that, that he's not really getting through it. Suffering is like his way of dealing with everything that he's going through spiritually. Yeah, it's a really good film, but not one that you would just show anyone. It's probably the most challenging film I've seen from him to watch. And when I said entertaining earlier, I mean more in a
It's
if you can
fascinating.
if you can get with the depravity of it all, it's interesting seeing how far he pushes it. And yeah, it's fascinating how it sort of reminded me of The Devils, where if you think about it, at the time it was made, this would like really shock audiences and make them uncomfortable. Even like nowadays, it will shock an audience. But if you think back in like the early '90s, this would have caused quite a panic, I think.
Yeah, he's just one of those characters. He has zero redeeming virtues. But at the same time, there's kind of this uh, longing for escape from his character. But I like the way that Ferrara kind of weaponizes like the faintest bit of care that you have for his character. It's like he almost wants you to feel kind of sorry for this kind of position of gambling addiction and drug that he's in at the same time, and kind of uses that. And he's just like, imagine a cop, but just the worst version possible that you can imagine. And like you guys have been saying, but I don't think it's necessarily exploitative from the other side of things. But I think it is one of those things where it can be easily flipped on its head. But it is. I do want to rewatch it. When was the last time I watched it? It was. Oh wow, it was like a year and a half ago. So it was quite a while ago. For me anyway. But yeah, it is. It's one of a kind. Let's just say that.
It is also co-written by Zoe Lund, she's Miss 45 and Miss 45.
Oh
So
really?
it's an
That is
interesting, yeah,
interesting. I
it's
didn't know that,
interesting.
because I guess, well, they're not this. I guess the violence is. It's not. They're not really comparable. But there's this depravity, but they're both driven to depravity in two completely different circumstances. I don't think they're worth putting on the same level in that case. But it's that kind of showcase of violence that you see evolved between these two films. And what you just said is quite fascinating, actually. But yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an evolved movie from that like driller killer and Miss 45 of like the lone protagonist in New York. Although it is very different. And it's kind of going into those addiction kind of movies that you see in the late 90s and in the 2000s as well. And it's interesting, like Daniel said, he was on drugs while making this. If you see like anything from him in the 90s, it's kind of blatant like how bad his addiction was. Whilst researching, I found an interview of him on Conan O'Brien in '96. Have you seen this?
No.
He's on Conan O'Brien doing promotion for The Funeral in 1996, and he is completely wasted in this interview. Like he can barely talk. He can't even hold a conversation with Conan O'Brien. Somehow he saves the interview, but he's completely wrecked. He tried to run away like 2 minutes before it started, and an intern had to run down the street of New York and bring him back. Yeah, I don't know what he's on, but he can barely hold a conversation. It's a really funny interview, like, but it's also like an eye opener to like his problems with addiction. Because it's really bad. But yeah, that is relevant because his next movie, The Addiction, is his best movie, I think, as well. But it's also his best movie on addiction.
Can
That's
I
in the
just say
black.
one thing quickly about
Yeah, go ahead.
about Bad Lieutenant? It genuinely only works as well as it does because Ferrara can push it no further, and I think it's really interesting. this thing about redemption in Catholicism. It's like, here is the worst man that has ever existed, and we're just going to redeem him. And I think the boundary between that is really fascinating to look at. And he does explore some sense of that in The Addiction as well, but I'll let you continue, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's funny that he does that. I think surely he wasn't. I don't know if he ever was like a proper Catholic, but he probably wasn't at this point because he does a lot of things that really would not be looked upon nicely.
Very sacrilegious.
Yes. But yeah, The Addiction is also kind of like a evolvement of that kind of movie that he was doing. Again, New York is evil, like very evil in this movie. But it's also, I think it's his best looking movie. This is, again, he's doing so much with these noir lighting. It's shot in black and white. It's a beautiful movie. But yeah, a really unique movie about addiction, a really unique vampire movie in a way that explores that need for having to live with the thirst for blood. And one of his best looking movies. I think this is my number one Ferrara. Again, about like a very singular individual. Is a PhD student who gets bit by a vampire in New York. This and The Blackout are really the best movies about addiction I think that he done. But yeah, what did you think about The Addiction?
What year is this? Sorry, I'm losing track now. Is this like 94? Is it?
Yes, it's 94. Yeah.
94. Yeah, this is one of his masterpieces for me. And again, it's extremely blunt. It is, and he's one of the masters of the kind of blunt filmmaking. There's no shying away of what this film is trying to go for. This kind of the justification we have for killing, and it's so much wider than its kind of vampiric origins. And it talks about kind of war crimes and humanity's lies of violence, and it's just one of the films that unfortunately has aged really, really well in a really sad way, that is still very relevant today. And it really does hit the nail on his head. And I find this kind of the division between the kind of existence of vampires in this kind of really modern world really fascinating. There's this kind of obsession with blaming the victims in this. there's we get that confrontation where she first gets bitten, and the girl who bitten her just tells her, just tell me to go away. And there's this justification of killing is just to keep on killing in this film. And it's really sad. And again, just in Abel style, we go out on a well, obviously this film is it got a lot of signifies to Catholicism, but like the last line of the film is self-revelation is the annihilation of self, which I think is one of his best lines of dialogue. Just to kind of look into yourself is to just annihilate your own existence, is really fascinating. And he just keeps on going, and I like how his last laugh of every film is well, in a number of circumstances, is to end on that kind of imagery, and we get the shot of the cross, which I think is the final shot of the film. But yeah, who's the actress that plays the lead again? I've forgotten her name.
She's Lily Taylor. She's the mum in The Conjuring, which is what I know her from.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where do I? Yeah, this is one of my favorites. But yeah, Daniel, what do you think about this film?
It's one of my favourites as well. It's probably my second favourite Ferrara. The vampirism aspect sort of has like a weird elegance to it all, but at the same time, it's still a guerrilla New York style film. Again, I always check with his films. I find it interesting. It was another film that they sort of just shot in the streets for the street shots. There weren't any extras or anything. They just sort of film as they go along. But yeah, it's like another film that tackles violence and like the appetite for violence. This one's like overconsumption, obviously. Obviously, in the film it's blood, but it's very on the nose with the addiction things. But there's also the whole like the AIDS scare as well. I think is tackled on as well. You know, the fear of transmission, and you know, vampires are naturally transmittable creatures. So I think they sort of serve again as another religious metaphor for not just moral corruption, but religious fear surrounding like drugs and the AIDS scare and everything that comes with that. And the evil in this, the evil of the vampires is much more intellectual, I'd say. You know, they're not like a Keitel's character in Bad Lieutenant, who are just robbing stores, being sexually violent. You know, a character who's a complete loose cannon. This time, it's a little bit more. The violence is more refined, I'd say, but at the same time, you've got shots where Lily Taylor's on a hospital bed, literally just doused in blood, like carriers. It's yeah, and the black and white imagery really elevates it all. Like linked to the vampirism, it feels like an old film, like a Hammer horror, but the lighting is just phenomenal. I agree that it's his best looking film. It looks incredible.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit more organized than something like Bad Lieutenant. But yeah, the shot of I can't remember the name of the character. I don't think we see her. Do we see the character that bites Lily Taylor's character in the beginning? Do we see her afterwards? Because what I was gonna say, just we get that shot of her working towards her, and like there's the things of light just coming across her face. You can just about make out the blood. It looks just phenomenal. But there's something else I was going to say. I think it's interesting, obviously, about his violence. And yes, this is very much a New York movie about cities and modernity. But he aims so much wider in this film than just cities. And he's really taking a long shot on this with how how wide his sense of commentary is. And you could maybe say that aiming that wide is a risk of coming across as what am I trying to say, not very concise, and yes, blunt, but I can't remember the for a vampire film, it's wildly unconventional. It doesn't necessarily follow typical vampire conventions. You know, we got the blood and stuff, and needing more of it. But outside of that, it's pretty atypical. And it really goes for something more in line with a lot of geopolitical commentary that we in that essence we do see from Ferrara, but not necessarily on this scale. And it is a fascinating result.
Yeah, I think it's also just a great genre movie as well. It's kind of him returning to horror. I mean, there's only this and Body Snatchers that he done after like that first batch of like stuff that he done. Like Daniel said, like the addiction isn't really, it's quite on the nose. I mean, they literally use needles to drink the blood in this. But yeah, it's interesting along with Ferrara's addiction in his real life. There's a documentary, I don't know if you've seen it, Oscar, it's in the Arrow release, that goes along with this. And they don't really talk about the movie or like making the movie. It's kind of just a chat. It's a really like weird but interesting documentary. And Lily Taylor kind of talks about her suffering with
this one.
Yeah. There's a 30-minute documentary in that. Yeah, and Lily Taylor talks about like her suffering with alcoholism, like whilst making this as well. It's kind of just like them sitting down and chatting. Like there's a moment when the the guy shooting them is like starts talking about his addiction, and like Ferrara just pulls out a cell phone and like starts filming them like in the middle, and like adds that into the documentary. It's quite funny. It's just them chatting. Like Walken's in there, even though like he's in this movie for like 3 minutes maybe. It's just one scene or something he's in
really
this movie,
good.
isn't he? Yeah,
Quite pivotal,
yeah, he's very. You remember his scenes, even though he's not in it. But yeah, he's kind of just in this documentary talking about how he isn't like getting any jobs, and talking about like the how like. I think he says something like the phone just stops ringing eventually, and it's kind of just quite sad. Like they don't even really talk about the movie when they're talking to him. It's funny. But yeah, a very good. It's a really unique vampire movie. And yeah, my number one Ferrara.
I think I have this. It's close, like second or third. It's too close to even. I don't bother. Like it's a masterpiece. That's all I care about. Probably wouldn't. I think I have another favorite.
Interesting. Okay, so that is. Oh no, what do you want to talk about the Blackout as well? That's also a movie you really like.
I kind of want to touch on the Blackout because I think the Blackout starts my favorite trilogy of his and one of my, I guess, favorite unofficial trilogies ever. Just give me 1 second. And I for me, his most fascinating. I just have this obsession with filmmakers and their dive into digital filmmaking, not digital filmmaking, well, I guess digital imagery within their films, not just making films digitally. And I think The Blackout is, first of all, his most underrated film. Until a couple of weeks ago, I hadn't even heard of it.
Yeah, 7K logs on Letterboxd.
Yeah, 7K logs on Letterboxd, and I'm sure Ryan will agree with me. This is like his Lost Highway.
Yeah.
They both came out in the same year. There's quite a few similarities. It's got Matthew Modine in it. Dennis Hopper is like the mystery man of this film. He is absolutely nuts. And it's this start of, so it centers around centers around a kind of tired Hollywood actor who's trying to get together his life, and he has this one kind of wild night out, and which is why it's called The Blackout. And he tries, it's kind of like The Hangover. He tries to piece together what happened that night, and it's all to do with kind of digital, the inevitability of digital and how it comes back to his past on that night. And there's Dennis Hopper has this club, and he's like making this film, and he's just like going around with a camera, just like filming people. There's a lot of sex. There's a lot of scenes of like filming pornos and things like that. Well, across all of these, actually, I think there's a really interesting evolution in this trilogy, between The Blackout, which is like the Father, New Rose Hotel, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which is Zeros and Ones. But there's a really interesting evolution of porn in these films, which and the way they're filmed and the status that they hold. And in Blackout, it's not so much a big thing. We kind of get this one scene where. Well, no, actually, I guess there's one scene with Modine and Dennis Hopper. They're kind of with these two girls, and he starts filming, but he's just going crazy with it. The amount he's filming, and I kind of said that it feels that The Blackout is an environment where it's like you're being filmed, or you are filming something, or the same time as both are, and it's this start of this kind of digital plague, as I like to put it, that Ferrara really progresses, and you can't really outrun it. It's a very angry film. It's very interrogative. There's a lot of meta text here, A lot of tangible layers. I don't know about you, Ryan, but there's the scene where like Modine's being like interviewed or something, and it looks like Ferrara. We never see the face of the guy, but I'm
I
convinced
never
it's
noticed that.
Ferrara. And I don't know why, but yeah, there's like that there's loads of dissolves in this, but you get that really nice dissolve of like when he's like smoking the cigarette. Looks incredible, this film, and it deeply disturbing as well, by the way, really dark. Come the end of it, I would highly recommend it. One of the finest American films of the 90s, and one of my favorite Ferraras. Is truly phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, like you said, it's kind of like you said it was his lost highway, but he's kind of like Lost Highways, like his or Lynch's Vertigo. Like he's playing around with like body doubles and women
Yeah.
with like different hairstyles, and it's very surreal in the way that you don't always know what's happening. So yeah, really really underrated movie from Ferrara, and Matthew Modine is actually like really good in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know he had that in him. Well, I guess he's in Full Metal Jacket as well, wasn't he? But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, one of his better performances.
Yeah, I really love this film. It was just randomly on Prime as well. I'm glad it was. But yeah, a great film. Also on just Hollywood in general and lost actors. Really, really great stuff. It's not that long as well. Go and check it out. It is really interesting.
Yeah, and next is New Rules Hotel, which came out in 1998, and this isn't shot. This isn't shot digitally either, is it? This is shot with a mixture of the two, isn't it? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's more not necessarily. Well, I guess zeros and ones is different, but I'm more like, it's not that it's shot digitally, it's that the Ferrara's commentary on digital technology within these films I find so fascinating. And New Rose Hotel is a really fascinating extension of that. I think this is his magnum opus. First watch, I know we did like a watch party for it. You guys weren't that hot on it, but then I revisited it recently, and I think I think it is his best film. Going on from that, I talked about the King of New York being a world of transactions. New Rose Hotel is a fascinating extension of that. We've got to a point where this world is kind of the death of material things. Everything is moving toward a digital, and it is coming for romance. And this is like ultimate end of the 90s, turn of the millennium. We're going to make something really cynical. Like, this is like the death of romance as we know it. And it is a masterpiece, to say the least. And I think it is genuinely, well, among the people that I follow, regarded as one of his best works. But it is an extension on the Blackout, which is only a year after this. And one that I find to be so fascinating, and I can't stop thinking about it.
This is where he starts to lose me a little bit. So I'm the opposite. It's like his transitional. This is his transitional film for me. It's sort of like it abandons the New York grittiness and is more like neo noir. Quite more abstract, I'd say, in the way it's edited. Quite cyclical. I don't actually remember much about it because watch parties are really bad for first watches, to be honest, for like a serious film. So I'd have a bit of amnesia about it, but I remember it starting to grate on me a little bit. It would be one worth rewatching now. I've seen zeros and ones and things like that because, like I said, it feels like a film that is more in line with modern Ferrara, and more concerned with the imagery itself rather than. It's very different to how On the Nose the Addiction is, for definite.
Yeah.
Like narratively, it's quite a big change over 3 years. So I think if you're more into it's not exactly an art house film, but if you're into more of that sort of genre of film, I think you'd appreciate it a lot. I will probably revisit it because it is an interesting bridge for me between the 21st century and 20th century Ferrara. It definitely feels more like a 21st century Ferrara film to me. But yeah, it's interesting. It's good if you're watching it all in order and you get to that one because it does feel like a big shift.
Oh yeah, definitely watch the Blackout before you rewatch this. But I think it is. I keep on losing my train of thought. I hate it. I have like things stored in my mind, and then as soon as I get to it, I blank. Ryan, what are you gonna say? You can go.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you say this is like the turning point for you. I mean, I don't disagree, but this is really a turning point in his career. I'm pretty sure this is the first movie where he left the US. Is that correct? I think he's living in Europe by this time. I might be wrong. It's at least around the time that he decides to move to Europe. And it's the start of a lot of new relationships in his career. He's obviously still got The Walking, but this is his first Defoe collaboration, his first Asia Argento, daughter of Dario Argento, and they've both made like, in terms of his 21st century stuff, like they were definitely like his biggest collaborators. So yeah, this is the start of like a new kind of era for him. I don't really remember the movie at all either, to be honest. I can't.
Okay, so brief plot. Willem Dafoe and Christopher Walken are these corporation guys, and they use Asia. They're trying to get this other corporation guy, basically, and they use Asia Argento to try and seduce him, I believe, and then everything goes haywire. Asia Argento, William Dafoe fall in love. She did she end up anyway,
there is one point in the movie that I remember, and I remember like almost crying, laughing at Christopher Walken's death.
Christopher Walken jumping over the thing and killing himself. Really interesting scene. But there's this it's all about these DNA synthesizers with this virus basically, and it kills loads of people. And basically we get this kind of bit where Defoe's just living in this kind of capsule hotel, and he's really lonely, and this detachment from Asia Argento's character, who he's fallen in love with, is really sad, and he just has these kind of remnants of digital things of her, and yeah, it is definitely worth revisiting. One of my favorites. I've this weird obsession with like turn of the century texts. I think they're so fascinating. Yang's done it, Assayas has done it, Ferrara's done it, and yeah, this is I love the direction he's kind of going, and going from the kind of the addiction to this is really fascinating, just because from the sense of clarity, and this, you were right, this really is a turning point in his career, because it kind of marks, I think this is his last walk-in collaboration, and it's like the beginning of his Defoe one, which I find really fascinating in itself. And like his 2000, did he even do anything in his 2000s run? Like, I know we're going to go into after this, but I generally don't think.
There is movies. I tried to watch a few of them, but they're actually very hard to find. Like even pirating them, they don't work. He's got a Christmas movie in 2001. He's got a movie about called Mary, which I assume is just about Jesus. So again, a very religious movie. He's got Go-Go Tales, which is about a dance club. Kind of looks Showgirls-esque. Just going off the poster. But other than that, the next big movie that we've all seen is 44 Last Day on Earth, which is just a movie that's... Yeah. I think it's the best of collaboration of him and Defoe.
Interesting.
And it's just a really interesting concept. Like it basically spends the last day with Defoe and his girlfriend, and it basically just asks the question like, how would you spend your last hours on Earth if you knew the world actually was going to end?
Mm.
Yeah, would you spend it with your partner, or does the art, or his girlfriend's an artist? Does art still matter if the world's about to end? Um, it's another movie about addiction, so he's asking questions like, does sobriety even matter if you're going to die in like
Yeah.
6 hours? There's a lot of interesting questions brought up just in this like 90 minutes. We haven't talked about that. Like all of his movies are like tight 90 minutes as
Oh
well, which
yeah.
is nice. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is a really interesting movie.
It is really existential. Uh, it's all I really like this film, by the way, but I love how intimate it feels for like an end of the world scenario.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
like
you
one
get
location, I think, isn't it?
it is
Yeah.
pretty much one location, but you get a lot of these end of the world things that feel very expansive and large on scale, but this is very confined. And I like the girlfriend who does a lot of painting. You know, the art kind of starts out as chaos, and by the end, it's got a lot of kind of formation to it. Um, but I think one of the Ferrari's most fascinating images in this film is the shot of the people in the gym. It's like the world is going to end, and this is how you're spending your last moments. It is so fascinating, but it's not. It's not that I'm slagging off that side of things. It's that side. It's just it's such a fascinating concept that it's almost believable. And I just couldn't get it out of my head when I was watching it. And he does this a lot in this film, really contesting. Kind of even obviously we've never been in this situation, but the fact that the world isn't explicitly ending, but there are a lot of horrendous things going on around us, and it's that idea that we're all still doing these, I guess, these things in a way that kind of challenges that. But yeah, I think that's one of the most fascinating images he's done. It's really interesting.
This is an interesting one for me because I actually approached this having already seen a film with basically the identical concept. It's a Canadian indie film called Last Night. It predates it by about 13 years, I think. And actually, it's got Cronenberg in it as one of the actors,
Oh, really?
David Cronenberg, and Sandra Oh's in it as well. So even though it's only got about 8K logs on Letterboxd, there are some recognizable names in it, and that's very similar. Last Night on Earth, you were with these characters. This is a bigger friend group, though. It's not just a couple in like isolation in an apartment. And in that film, there's suicide pacts, even though it's Last Day on Earth. There's people desperate to lose their sexuality. There's like some weird ritual at the end of the world where they don't want to die as a virgin. And that's
God,
like
yeah.
similar to the thing in the gym and like the neuroticism of like self improvement. Even
Yeah.
Last Day on Earth, people are obsessing, or I suppose distracting themselves by following the routine and going to the gym. And it does go hand in hand well with 444. This also tackles um, similar themes of like what it really places the viewer as what would you do in this situation. But I think 444's more focused on the artistic side of things from the like girlfriend's perspective than it is just the general social dynamics that you get in the film that I've seen. I mean, there's Miracle Mile as well, but that's much more contemporary.
That's,
But that's a really good film as
yeah.
well. Yeah, it's a really good little genre of film, the like Last Day on Earth sort of film. And yeah, I like 444. It's probably my favorite 21st century horror I've seen. That it's really tightly paced, like most of his films. I think that lends itself well to like the finality of what the film is about. So yeah, there's a good one. 444.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like it moves in real time in some way. But that kind of jump from I know he's made films in the 2000s, but this feels kind of like his first most notable film since New Rose Hotel. And I think that jump, considering how dooming New Rose Hotel is of a an ending 19th 20th century statement to this is Um, and there's some scenes in this. The scene we get with his delivery driver, and he's like he wants to call home. We get that scene over the laptop. It's so sad. But there's that delivery driver character. There's such a he kind of has this lack of emotion about him, and there's this calmness to the situation, and it despite being quite confined to this, we see so many different micro environments, observations around. We a lot again. He's kind of using that digital. We get there a lot of relationships with like the laptops. His daughter, who he has with the mum who he's separated from, who seems to hate the girlfriend that he's got, and they go through arguments. I do. And what the last line of the film is like, we're angels already. Really poignant stuff. Not what I expected going into that film. I don't know what I was expecting from the poster, but I really loved it.
Yeah, it's a really good use of that concept. I mean, like, even throughout the film, you're kind of wondering, like, it's not like a for certain the world is going to end at the end of this movie. Like, there's kind of that doubt in it, even though it eventually does. Yeah, there's the Skype calls that you're saying. They kind of date the movie to 2011 because Skype doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's my favorite scene in the movie. Maybe is when that delivery driver. I mean, it's kind of the same idea as the like, why are you going to the gym? Like, why is this guy still in like this like capitalistic like system delivering food on the last day of the earth? But yeah, that's a really sad scene where he Skype calls his family back home. There's also there's such a feeling of like, I mean, it's so short, but there's like you're saying, it does feel like it's kind of accurate to like just the full day. Like, there's a scene when Willem Dafoe falls asleep and like his girlfriend just doesn't wake him up, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, last day on earth, and you just let him like sleep half the day. It's a very like stressful movie at times. Just because you've got that like ticking clock of it's coming to the end of the day throughout the whole time. But yeah, this is also my favorite from like this decade or century.
Interesting. I always like specifically this film, but the way you're talking about it, they weaponize like the faintest hint of disbelief from our side that this isn't going to happen. And this more than any other ones. And I guess it's just that position of, we've never really been in this scenario, that disbelief is always going to exist, and it's impossible to fight off that feeling for us that there is a slight bit of hope that this is all just some random thing. And the same with like Miracle Mile as well. And I like how he taps into that. But yeah, fascinating film.
Any last thoughts on that movie?
I think it's more of his one of his more underrated films. I guess just all of his anything post The Addiction, Ferrara is just underrated in general. And not.
I mean, I'd even say The Addiction's an underrated movie. Like, it's not like it's a really well-known movie. Well, True. It's properly rated. I mean, but it's not been seen by a lot of people. I mean,
yeah, he kind of peaks with King of New York in popularity census, then everything afterwards is it's interesting because I guess to more cinephilic people, Ferrara is kind of a fairly big name, but like his films are still not that well known outside of maybe like Badly Talented Miss 45, King in New York. Maybe more happy that way.
Yeah. You talked about that kind of like doomed sense of what's coming at the end of the movie, and he kind of does that again in his next movie, which is his Pasolini biopic, which is obviously the last days of his life, following the production of Salò. It starts on the film as he's editing the movie, and you have this doomed sense of, well, you know, it's Pasolini who's going to die at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of just, again, kind of just going through his daily life. He doesn't know that his life's going to end at the end of this day, but you as a viewer, I'm aware that you're watching the last moments of Pasolini's life. I didn't love this movie, but I know you really like it.
Boo! Your review is so redundant. This is not some
What was my
IMDb.
review?
Like he's
I don't
looked on
remember.
IMDb. It's like
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I too have looked on IMDb. That is so redundant of this film. I think this is again. It's a very fragmented portrait of Pasolini's life. You know, we're picking up at the far end. You know, Salo's pretty much been done. He's trying to put it out there. Nearly done editing. But I really love the way this film kind of puts Pasolini and Ferrara together. There's a lot of ideas of visions being and dreams being cut short, and this escape of fictional realities from this kind of consumerist state of art and totalitarianism. And I think there's a real blend of filmmaker vision in this film that I think is really, really unique. And I think to say that this is, you know, this is like a road trip of Pasolini's, you know, here's some couple facts about Pasolini and he's gonna die is not fair. This is a really, really fantastic film. It's got some really wild images. Those kind of are they black and white scenes? We get those kind of staircases. They're kind of like dream kind of sequences in essence.
It's scripts from Pasolini's movies, is it not, that he was going to make? Is that what it is?
I think it might be, but yeah. Like I said, very fragmented film, really sad, and really, really fantastic. And I wouldn't say this is underrated from people who have seen it. People do genuinely really love this film. And
Do they, as a 3.3?
Well,
Yeah, but
whoa.
most Ferrara
People
films
I
have
follow, yeah.
most
People
Ferrara
I
films have a
follow.
3.3 or a 3.2. 444 is rated lower than this, like on average.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
For me, Pasolini, I did have a bit of a nightmare trying to find a copy of this that was working for me. But eventually I got there. Yeah, for like 20 minutes, there was just no subtitles, so then I had to rewatch the film because some of the subtitles were working, some weren't. Oh no, that was it. Defoe was like dubbed over in like Italian. I was like, "What is happening? Is this supposed to be
Well, that's
happening?"
what's funny about at the
Then I
start.
went
He's
back
kind of
and
just
found.
Defoe like speaking, and then at some point he starts speaking Italian, I think.
Yeah, so I found a new copy and that was working fine. We've all done the required reading. We'd all seen Salo. I think at different points. I didn't watch Salo just to see Pasolini. I'd already seen it. My thoughts on that film, I've not got it rated because I don't know what I think of that film, but it is it's definitely stuck with me. And clearly the guy behind it was a very multi-layered, complex person. The only reason I have it 2.5 is that I just, in the nicest way possible, because it's a really somber film, I did not particularly care about what I was hearing or what Pasolini as a character was like describing to people, his creative process and like the issues he was having. It's quite observational and is very respectful to who he is as a person, but yeah, it's I think stylistically it was quite nice, but the actual subject themselves I was not that bothered about. So whilst I don't dislike it, I wouldn't rush to see this one again.
Interesting.
I just
But
don't
if
think
you're
it
into
does
Italian
much.
films, yeah, that's what I mean. It's very observational, but I think if you're interested in the subject, you will like the film. Maybe not necessarily, because you might be interested in the subject, Ryan, but that's the impression I got.
Interesting. I guess it is kind of distant, but it is. I just think there's so much sits on the emotionality of his character being like this. There's almost the certainty and his commitment to making these projects that he doesn't hold back on. and just keeps on going, fighting against this kind of fascism in Italy. And yeah, for those who haven't seen Salo, 120 Days of Sodom, a very, very infamous film, which this film is about the director of. A very extreme film, one of the most provocative films out there, and it is absolutely fantastic. We have all seen it, and it is. For me, it is kind of one of those essential viewings. You've got to watch it at least once in your life. Although subject matter, yeah, whatever. But I know we've spoken about before this kind of explicit handling of subject matter and this kind of cast aside ideals from the general audience that would, I guess, just push things aside and not willing to engage with them on any deeper level than what they exist at face value. And this is absolutely one of those films. And I really think Ferrara kind of digs into that in this film. And yeah, I found it pretty incredible.
Yeah, I did watch Salo like right before this to prepare for it, because I'd never seen it. Obviously, yeah, as you said, it's a great film. Both very controversial movie or directors, and he somehow makes probably his most bog standard movie out of it. I don't think there's really too much interesting. I don't think what I said is too outrageous. I mean, like, I did research. Obviously, after I watched Salo, I looked up like how he died and everything, and I don't think the movie really offers much outside of the bullet points of that. And there's just kind of these scenes where he's like recreating movies that Pasolini didn't get to make, and I just don't really think it's very well done or adds much to the movie.
Do not listen to them. Go and watch this movie. It's really, really fascinating.
Yes, and he has after Pasolini, he's worked with Defoe how many times? Another twice, is it?
So he's done Siberia, interesting film. Tommaso, which I haven't seen. He made Padre Pio, which I don't think has got Defoe in.
No, it doesn't. And he's not in Zeros or Ones. Zeros and Ones.
And he's not in Zeros and Ones. He is in American Nails, though, his next film. So that's going to be a nice return. And Asia Argento as well. I'm very much looking forward to that. Hopefully that actually... And I think it's going to be festival release this year. Hopefully that actually does come out this year. I think it could be really interesting.
Okay, that leads us on to our final movie, which is... It's not the last film that he released, but it is the first film that he released this decade in 2021, and that is Zeros and Ones. So, Oscar, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, this is just not holding back. This is like the best film of the decade, and probably like is it. And the ending to the trilogy with Blackout and News Hotel. Obviously, those two films were made a year apart, and this is like when was this? 20 years after those films. And the good luck trying to find a plot, because there isn't really a plot to this film. It kind of centers around Ethan Hawke. Well, two Ethan Hawkes, I guess. We only really see one of whom. There's such a jump between what he's doing with digital stuff, because in this film the digital camera has like it's everywhere. It's gone beyond just a virus. It is infected everything. Some of his most insane imagery, the grain is ridiculous. It is a digital dystopia. Everything is dominated by it. There's just images everywhere. Paranoia is ingrained into the cameras, and there's just this fetish with filming everything. We get there's a scene in this film where they like waterboard a guy. Looks incredible, by the way. It's like it goes all blue and it looks crazy, but like the way Ethan Hawke and the guys like just like go in and out with like their cameras like just poking them, it really fascinates me. And this is kind of the fallout of his Catholicism. This takes place in and around the Vatican. It's a dying world. It's barely a world. The CGI explosions are so funny in this, and it's kind of the be all or end all of this kind of Catholicism reign. And I have nothing but respect. This is, yeah, it's wild. Just one of those films again where he is floating further and further from that kind of studio thing and doing everything against that, and is made abundantly clear by the funniest marketing campaign from Lionsgate, I think it was, who did not know how to market this film at all. And we ended up with the funniest trailers and the funniest poster ever, which reflects nothing of what the film is about because it is pretty unmarketable.
I've actually not seen the trailers. What did they do for it?
Oh, it's hilarious. I swear like half the stuff that is in the trailers isn't even in the film. They're just trying to pull things together, and there's kind of weird voiceover. They treat it as like some action thing. It's absolute chaos, and like I mentioned earlier, the way he treats kind of porn and things like that. There's a real sad depravity to the scene in this, where like Ethan Hawke is like forced into making a porno with this girl, and
with his wife, Ferrara's wife, I think.
Oh really?
Yeah, I think she's one of the girls.
Oh wow. But yeah, there's this level of a sadness about this forcefulness to the way that's filmed and its existence in comparison to the blackout and New Rose Hotel. And I find that to be such an interesting kind of motif between the three. But yeah, I absolutely love this film to bits. This film was made for me completely. This is the stuff I love, and this kind of I guess self-destructing narratives that are known in parts of the 90s. I guess there isn't much comprehensible happening here. We kind of touring through parts of the Vatican as there are kind of hints of terrorist plots as Ethan Hawke's trying to find his brother, who he finds out is dead. And yeah, one of the best things to come out this decade, and one of Ferrara's best films. And Ryan is very wrong about this film.
Yeah, this is my least favorite Ferrara. The letter you learn more from the letterbox description of this about telling you that he's there to Rome to stop a terrorist bombing. It is very you don't emphasize it enough when you say there's no plot in this movie. I'd go so far to say there isn't a movie there at times. This reminds me of Brian De Palma's Domino, where it feels like it's just not like a complete movie. There's some weird similarities there, going off a tangent, just the fact that they both kind of like went to Europe and like working there outside of Hollywood now, which is happening. Quite a lot of people, filmmakers of that era. Just a side tangent there, but yeah, there's some interesting like neo-noir digital imagery here, but there's not a whole lot that really interests me in this movie. He's in the Vatican. He's not doing much with his religion. There's not much going.
This is like this is like a fallout, a cinematic fallout. And I think the world that it feels like it exists in just feels so dead and like on the surface and just so non-existent, purposefully non-existent, and how loose everything is.
Well, it's also a COVID movie.
It is a COVID movie. That is true. There is stuff with masks in here. But yeah, one of a kind.
The most interesting choice, I think, is you have this video, say a vlog of Ethan Hawke at the start of the movie. He introduces it, and for like a good 5 minutes, and you're like, okay, right, this is kind of like setting up the ideas. And then at the end of the movie, you have like a good 10 minutes of Ethan Hawke kind of contemplating the fact that he got to finally work with Abel Ferrara, and this was what he got, and he's kind of trying to like work through what happened in the movie.
I don't think he understood the script. I think he's like said that, but that's just
Well,
all
from
part of the
him,
plan.
there isn't really a. I don't think anybody understood what was going on in this movie.
Daniel.
See, I don't even dislike it. I give it a 3. Something instinctively in my brain after watching it was telling me that that was a good film and that
It is.
I quite enjoyed what I was seeing, but I could not put into words why, because I was sort of just sat watching it slack-jawed, like what is happening. But I think knowing that because this is the most recent Ferrara film I've seen. I think when you made the list, it's the only one along with Pasolini I'd not seen, and I do prefer this to Pasolini. The combination of him, like knowing him as like this hyper religiously aware director and mixing it all with this digital like landscape, and the COVID definitely adds an element for me when I'm watching a film of like it feels almost dystopian and very strange and like technological in a weird way. I don't know. It's so different to everything else that I've seen from him, and it is even more abstract than New Rose Hotel because there's like not much of a coherent plot in this, and it would usually be the opposite of like a film made for me. It would usually be my worst nightmare, but there's something about it. I think it has a personality that I quite enjoyed. Definitely not my least favorite Ferrara. I mean, there should be advertising laws about, like you said, that poster. I've not seen the trailers, but like Ethan Hawke in a soldier's outfit with like floating heads. Like my dad, if he saw that, would click on it, and we'd have the worst time of our lives if we watched that together.
Built for like
so
streaming
funny.
services.
It's
I
built.
bought the DVD.
There you go. There it is.
It's kind of poetic that this doesn't have a Blu-ray because I want to watch on like the lowest quality possible. It cost me like £4. You got like, the soldiers in coving mask in the bottom. There's like a blown up car there. Ethan Hawke, like he doesn't even look like this in the film. Like no version of Ethan Hawke looks like this in the film. It's so funny.
He has a beard in the movie, or does he, brother?
Exactly.
Is it his brother? I don't know.
I don't think it looks like either of them.
No.
It's genuinely hilarious. Yeah, this poster does not represent the film in any way. It's horrendous in the best way possible. This poster, but yeah, it is a truly spectacular film.
So yeah, it's definitely like an evolution on his early 21st century style with the digital stuff. I think he's such a good director to follow through because, like we've established, he's like a grindhouse, grotty, guerrilla like filmmaker in the 70s and 80s with the New York stuff, and then I think there's a real defining point with New Rose Hotel where the transition take place between stylistically and with the digital stuff. So he's a very rewarding director. I think he's definitely gone more the abstract, more art house route in the 21st century compared to like the not exploitation, but that sort of film in the 20th century. So if I was to do like a top 3, it'd be Miss 45 first, The Addiction second, and then probably Bad Lieutenant third. That 90s run, and obviously Miss 45 is one of his first major ones, is really good.
Yeah, my top 3 would be The Addiction, Miss 45, and The Blackout, actually, which is like...
You didn't give me that as required reading. I might
Yeah, that
need
was
to watch
a
that.
bonus. Yeah, really underrated as Oscar was saying. Doesn't really fit in with my other 3. I do think it's one of his best, but I would say like in terms of his like style of filmmaking, I did prefer his earlier stuff and the 90s, of course. I think that's his best decade. But yeah, I prefer the kind of like down and gritty exploitation version of Ferrara to his modern stuff.
Interesting. I think my top three is like New Rose Hotel, Zeros and Ones, and The Addiction. Closely followed by The Blackout. But yeah, that trilogy, the late 90s and Zeros and Ones is the stuff that I'm most fascinated with him. The less of the kind of I love the stuff that is really blunt and full of clarity in a way. But yeah, I think that that style is specifically is what I'm more fascinated by. But yeah, I can't wait to see what he does next. I need to tick off some of his more modern ones. But I'm just going to read the synopsis for American Nails. It's about the rise and fall of modern Phaedra in a tale set in the in the gangster world of primal violence, power, and revenge. This no-holds-barred retelling of Euripides' masterpiece pits its protagonist against the male-dominated remnants of power and entitlement in the shadow of the Roman Empire in contemporary Italy. It sounds kind of like a mix of his modern stuff and his older stuff, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, just the fact that it's in Italy, though, I think it will lean more into his modern stuff.
And it's got it's got Asia Argento and Willem Dafoe in, which I think is going to be a great reunion.
Have you seen and it's the same cinematographer as Zeros and Ones.
Zeros and Ones, oh yes. Who has also done loads of other great things. Good Time. Sean Price.
A lot of A24 movies.
Harvest is a really great film that looks phenomenal. Heaven knows what. So he's done some stuff with Safdies. But yeah, same cinematographer as Zeros and Ones. Hopefully it's really digital because that would make me really happy. But yeah.
Yes, he has a lot of films for you to go and see if you've not seen them. As ourselves, have got a lot to watch. But yeah, that's our thoughts on Abel Ferrara. Definitely check out. That's like a good solid. Is it 10 movies we talked about? It's a good solid kind of like.
Well, yeah.
It's a good list.
10 or 11 we talked about. Yeah.
Basically, they're easy to find. All those.
Yeah. His later stuff is really hard to find, but yeah, that's a good like core 10 or 11 movies. They kind of show you what he's like as director. And go see him in Marty Supreme if you want to see what he's like as an actor right now. And he's what age is he? 70?
70s, yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. 75, I think.
What is he?
Yeah, he's 75. So yeah, he's getting up there, still making movies, and yeah, he'll have one out this year. So yeah, let us know what your favourite Ferrara movie is, and we'll be back next week for something else.